everybody. This is Dr. Dan Cartalicchio. Want to welcome you to another of one of our monthly segments of MD Health, MD Life segment. I am here with my co-host, my lovely co-host, Mandy J. Ross. Mandy, how are you today? What's going on?
I'm so happy this week. It is so hot and sunny and warm in Toronto. And honestly, I feel like I always joke I'm solar powered. So I feel like so alive, just so alive this week.
Yeah, you're feeling good this week? Or you having a great week? We're having a great week here in the offices. We're helping out a lot of people. We're getting them better. We're getting them better with nutrition. We're getting them better with chiropractic. So it's been a great week, and you know, we still have the rest of today, and we still have tomorrow to help out a lot of people, right?
Every moment counts.
Every moment counts is right. So listen, what are we going to talk about today? And before we talk about anything today, so Mandy, you know, you're a positive, a catalyst for positive change, which you are. I look forward to our monthly MD Life segment because it's really a lot of fun. International TV, media personality, speaker, writer, model, mindset, and manifestation coach. Mindset and manifestation. We're going to talk about that today, whose purpose is to help individuals step into their happiest, most successful, aligned, and loving selves. I'm Dr. Dan. I'm a chiropractor. I am a clinical nutritionist. I look at those who need to lose weight and try to help them out. Entrepreneur, and I try to mentor young entrepreneurs, which is important. So for those young entrepreneurs that are listening today, it's very important, the topic that we're going to discuss, because we're going to discuss how to turn failure and fear into success. Very important. So Mandy, tell me, what are your initial thoughts on this?
I love it. You look pretty serious there, Dan.
I am. You know what? I wanna learn from you. So I'm leaning in. And I wanna know what you're gonna say. So I'm really interested.
I don't usually make notes for our segments. It's just stuff that kind of comes off the cuff. But I actually wrote a few notes today because this topic of turning your fears and failures into fuel for success, it is technically, you know, a manifestation. It's gonna lead into manifestation, but I think it's just something every single one of us can relate to, whether we're talking about manifesting or not. Just in life in general, fear is something that we all have to deal with. You know, I don't intend that, but I mean, it comes up, right? Even if you're the most confident, secure, stable person, there's times when you start, you know, feeling that little, we'll call it the little fear voice come up, and it's important to understand where your fears are coming from. And I think it's beautiful that we're both on this segment because we can talk about it from a psychological standpoint. We can talk about it from a physical standpoint, what's happening in the body when this is happening. And then also give, you know, all of y'all watching out there tools on how you can, you know, immediately and also like say longer term, help yourself and basically have the best defense for those times when you're feeling the fear being triggered in you. Right.
It is extremely important because if you want to be an entrepreneur and if you want to be a success, how comfortable are you being uncomfortable?
Exactly.
And you know, when I mentor young entrepreneurs, it's one of those situations where, you know, one of the first things I will, you know, one of the first aspects of this is I will ask them, how uncomfortable are you being uncomfortable? Because if you're an entrepreneur, you know, and you want to do good in the world, I mean, you're going to be uncomfortable at times. That's just the way life is. And it's a situation where you must be able to deal. And listen, we all fail in life, right? We all fail. But we're gonna go over
the word failure because
I love that. All right, so let's start here, Mandy, because I really don't like the word failure. I like either you grow or you learn, and you learn how to grow. So that's what I normally say. So let's start off here.
This is a good starting point. I think this is good because again, our words are very powerful. So when we talk about the word failure, it's funny. I had this conversation with a coaching client recently, and he actually asked me particularly, he's like, I would love to know your thoughts as my coach. Like, what are your insights on the word failure and how do you deal with that, whether it's yourself or other clients you're working with or whatnot. And it's funny, the word, and I think that this word is a really important one to investigate, because I think the meaning, I should say the meaning behind what we equate failure to be is really, it can really be powerful in terms of how we use it to either empower us or block us. So when it comes to failure, I think it might sound funny, but I don't really believe in the usual sense of that word. I don't believe the true meaning of it, or I don't associate that meaning to it. I agree with you. I think in life we really are either learning, or I actually prefer the word just feedback. Life is giving us feedback on what we need to grow in, what area we need to grow in, or things that we need to work on, or we're winning. You know, it's either a win or feedback. So I don't even really use the term failure. And when you start to actually look at it and change your perspective, it's much more, again, motivating versus blaming, like, oh, I should blame myself or feel badly because things didn't work out in the way that maybe I expected them to. And coming from that space in looking at it as actually something to be grateful for, because it's a lesson that you can learn. I think that's it's just a much more empowering way to look at it. So that's one thing, like that's one element of this whole, I think, equation is actually, you know, reframing what failure means to you.
You know, I love that, because if you can reframe that word failure, and if you can grow from that and you can take this as a learning lesson, it's extremely important, because what happens is that growth comes from our greatest failures. We have our greatest growth from our greatest failures and our greatest challenges. So let's say challenges instead of failure, right? Our greatest challenges, right? We have our greatest growth. How do you approach these challenges, and how do you help a client out from beginning to end when they're going through a challenge? How do you do that?
Well, I like what you said there, that the most amount of growth comes from usually the biggest challenges in our lives, because I think it's important to identify, like, now if we kind of go through the different layers of where fear comes from, when typically I find people have fear for two main reasons. One is either they're fearing repeating something that was hurtful, painful, you know, discomfort of the past, or they're worried or scared or anxious about a future unknown. And it's usually one or the other. I mean, there's lots of scenarios, but I tend to find it's either fear of repeating something. It could be them something they've done or maybe they've witnessed in their lives, or again, something that, you know, maybe they don't know, they can't see the future of something, and that scares them. But, you know, as Tony Robbins says, a lot of times in life, you know, we're asked to make a lot of decisions, especially when we want to achieve more. And you brought up a really good point, especially as an entrepreneur, there's times when you have to decide, do I want to level up? And that leveling up is going to require a new version of you. It's going to require you to maybe get uncomfortable, right? To let go of the old you in order to grow into this more successful version, we'll say. So I think it's important to note those things. And then from there, you can say, well, and what I was going to allude to is Tony Robbins, I think, has a saying that, you know, all it takes is 15 seconds of courage in order to potentially change the rest of your life.
Right.
You know, it's like taking that leap of faith. Right. And I have a personal favorite that I go to in my head. It's like those who, you know, something, I think the quote is something like, you know, those who don't jump will never fly. You know, like those who aren't willing to jump are never going to fly.
I love that, because I don't know who it was. It was about a year ago, and I was watching TV, and I'm not a big TV watcher, Mandy, but I just happened to turn on the TV, and there was, don't remember who it was, who was saying, in order to grow, you got to look down off that cliff.
Yeah.
And you
totally.
have to.
It's a beautiful metaphor.
and you have to jump no matter how scary that is. And when I mentor individuals, I say, you've got to jump off that cliff, because that's where you're going to get, as we said before, the greatest growth. You're going to find out who you are and what you need to work on when it comes to this. Now, we have a bunch of people listening in today. So if you have any questions for Mandy or I, please, ask away. We're talking about fear. We're talking about failure. And how do we go from fear and failure to success? And success can mean many different things to many people. It could be in the entrepreneurial world. It could be family. It could be relationship with your significant other. It could be a relationship with your friends, your sons, your daughters. So there's many different ways that you can do that. So Mandy, let me ask you a question.
Yes, go for it.
Oh, you know me, right, Mandy? So tell me, what was the biggest fear you've had recently? And tell me, how did you overcome it? What did you do? And what did you learn?
That's a beautiful question. And I love that you're throwing it on me, because I think, I'm very, I've opened up on my social media. I think I'll do the more recent one, which actually I would say probably even happened in the last few weeks of my life, which is a perfect divine timing. But I would say even with social media in general, like the fear of, and this is actually a beautiful tie-in to, last week I actually ended up taking part in a mastermind, and that really had me have to really dive within myself and ask myself a lot of questions about, what I want to achieve, what do I want to accomplish. And in that self-discovery, I did have some fears come up, or was triggered in some ways that really made me have to face internal fears. And more than that, I think fear usually stems from limiting beliefs. It's the stories that we've created about ourselves
that we tell.
Now, and just being very transparent, even like what I was going to say, but even before, even on my social media, I feel like part of the process of me healing those or overcoming those fears was actually opening up about things that, and the reason why this all ties together is because I think it's really important for people listening to also understand, like, part of why as humans we have fear is because one of the number one things that we crave is to be loved by others. That's one of our, human, say, basic needs, is to be loved by others. Now, what typically can happen is when you're asked to do something out of the ordinary that will allow you to potentially up-level yourself to achieve more success, whatever that might be. A lot of times our biggest fear is it stems from not feeling enough based on being judged by others, and maybe not being accepted or judged by others in a negative way. And our human need goes, oh my goodness, if I'm judged and not accepted, or I'm judged and not liked, or I'm not enough to others, I'm not going to be loved. And that's something that's really important, because when you can make peace with what the actual internal fear is in there, and understand that no, I know that I'm enough. I know that I am more than good enough. What other people, their judgments of me, that's just a story that's gonna, like, you know what I mean? You're creating that story. If you're confident in what you're doing, if you're self-assured, then you realize the external, and it's a funny thing too that I've even gone through in my life, where you put so much emphasis on, like, years and years ago, prior to the confident young lady I am, but like, when you place your confidence in other people, you're giving your power away. You're saying, basically, even though I might love myself, if you're allowing others to dictate your worth, we'll say, your value, then you're really giving away your personal power. So the first thing to recognize is you need to be able to, I think one of the big things for me was realizing, like, my day one people, the people that knew me before I did all these things in my life,
Mhm.
And the people who have stuck with me since day one, those are your people. Those are your
Right.
people. Those are the
Right.
people that are going to keep it real with you, who love you for genuinely being you. If there are people out there, if you're finding that you have, say, attracted people, or you're finding that people are really judgmental, those are not your people. You know,
So,
those are not your people.
so you're saying a lot of good stuff right now. Number one, judgment. People are fear of being judged because it may not be the way you want it to be. And it
People
may
want
be
people want to feel like they fit in, that they're included,
right,
that they're loved.
right. And I was just going to say that they want to feel that they're loved. And when you have the judgment, it could be a negative judgment. Now, bringing in those people around you, your posse, if you will, or whatever, your friends, and if they're the wrong people, they may be judgmental regardless, right, Mandy? No matter who they are,
Yep.
no matter who they are, they, if they're totally judgmental, no matter what happens, and they're judgmental of themselves,
Exactly.
family, friends.
A lot of times, yeah, it could even be your partner. Like, and I'm not trying to harp on people, but like,
No, this is
but it
important.
could be it could even be like, say you're someone who has a dream, and the people closest to you might not even believe in your dream, but you have that vision. That's why, and this is a really good time for me to, like, that's why you have to have a high self-concept. If you believe in yourself,
Right.
that is the key to overcoming any fear. You have to have a strong inner self-belief.
100%. And I'm bringing this up because that fear of failure for success can be derailed because of somebody's judgment call on you. And we've all been there before. Like we've said, it could be somebody close to you, it could be a parent, it could be a significant other, it could be a spouse, it could be a brother or a sister. And that could derail you from that success because you are failure. Then you're going to have that failure mentality, that failure mindset, and you're not going to make it. And that becomes sad. To me, that's a sad situation because I was brought up, no matter what you want in life, you have to have self-confidence, which is okay. There's nothing wrong with that. You have to have self-esteem. You have to have self-respect. You have to have that dream or that vision, and then you got to work every day in order to make it happen, and you're going to take your lumps. My family used to say, you're going to take your lumps, so it's true where some days are going to be better than other days. We all have had good days and bad days. How do you stay focused when that challenge comes? What do you say to yourself? What do you do? What's that focus? Because I think that's at the core of what we're saying right now.
How do I stay focused on during times
if you have a challenge, Mandy, that's going on, it could derail you, like we said. How do you stay focused though? Right?
I think one of the big ones again is inner conversations with myself, and I think again, affirmations can really come in handy. So, and as an entrepreneur, there are times when, you question yourself, you doubt yourself, you start to go down that negative Nelly train, right?
Right.
And I think in those times, it's important to have the right tools that you can turn to. Some of my favorites, again, are affirmations. So if I identify that I'm feeling in fear, usually it's because for an instant, I'm not feeling like I'm in control. So I think affirmations like, I'm safe, I am secure, I am confident, I got this. Like I'm in control, I am powerful, I know that I can do, be, and have anything I want. These kinds of empowering statements to yourself. Go on a 5-minute rampage. Say these kinds of things to yourself for 5 minutes straight. Just keep pushing it out if you have to, because your subconscious will catch on. And it's amazing the power of I am statements. And I'll put a link to my I am affirmation morning meditation with I am affirmations, because I am statements are so powerful to penetrate the subconscious, and that will get pushed out as like, okay, it's almost like you take a fiver, or say even 20 minutes, whatever amount of time you can just set aside, and you have to like be your own life cheerleader. You have to hype yourself up in those moments.
Right.
Remind yourself of how powerfully, wonderfully, and just incredibly gifted you have been made. You know, you really have to hype yourself up. I think obviously lifestyle habits play into that for me as well. Like, you know, if I'd say I always go back when it comes to fear and anxiety, I always go back to the basics. Am I getting enough sleep? Sleep
Right.
is huge, especially if you have a very active mind and you are someone who tends to be, let's say, a little bit, if you tend to be a little bit more anxious or a little bit more stressed out or that thing, I think sleep is so important. Are you getting enough hydration? Hydration is so important. Are you fueling your body with the right foods that are supporting being in a chilled out, you know, state of mind?
Right.
And I also think for someone, especially like myself, like extreme physical activity, like I love being active. If I even go one day without doing something active, I feel it. I can feel my nerves even just are not the same.
Right. So I know that I'm always liking your Instagram and your Facebook pages because you're always doing something active. You're always outside. Right now it's warm, and you know, whether you're doing yoga, you're running and so forth. And I think this is important also because when you're going through a challenge, you need to take care of yourself. So fueling your body is important. Stay away from those, you know, ultra processed, those processed foods, because it's just going to bring you down mentally.
It's just low vibration. Like, I mean, I don't necessarily need to get into vibe talk so much today, but I mean,
go for it.
Everything in your life is a vibration. Everything, whether it's, and I will say this, as much as like, I don't want to blame, shame certain things out there, but like, I'm going to be honest, because I'm very transparent, like even things like the news, like I have newscaster friends, I'm in the media myself, so I'm not going to say that every single thing out there is bad, but like, and here's a perfect example. I even had caught myself, I'd say, it was funny, I was having a conversation with a girlfriend and the same thing happened to her. We're both very, like, let's just say extra sensitive souls when it comes to like energy, and I definitely say I'm an intuitive empath. So I pick up on things around me very easily. And I caught myself kind of at one day, it was one day that I was allowing myself, because it was a choice, it was a total conscious decision, but I was allowing myself to feed into a lot of what was being put out on the news. And I was just kind of, my energy was focused there. And I honestly felt so anxious afterwards. It was such like, and it's funny, like right now I'm like having the vibes channel through me. I could feel like the vibes in my body going off because I'm so passionate about this. But it's so important to be aware of what are you ingesting, not just food wise, TV wise, material wise, social media wise, food wise, yes. People, are you surrounding yourself with high or low vibrational type of people? All these things are going to affect you. And if you're feeling constantly, especially like even relationships, if you're in a situation where you feel like you have to constantly be on the defense because someone is not necessarily healthy around you, you're going to be so much more in that anxious kind of fearful state. Like you can't even, it's like walking on eggshells constantly. Your body is not made to be under that kind of stress constantly, right?
And that makes the challenge even more difficult to overcome. And what we're talking about, Mandy, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. It's a mental, it's a physical, it's an emotional aspect of this, right? So getting enough sleep when you're going through a challenge, eating the proper foods when you're going through a challenge, right? Drinking water, having affirmations, making sure there are people that are around you that are lifting you up, because not that this is Pollyanna, because when you do this, you see the possibilities and you make better decisions. So the challenge that you're going through, you become less fearful.
Yeah, this is not about like, I am probably, as you know, because we're friends, I mean,
Mandy, I think you went,
I didn't even learn. There's a very big balance between, you know, there boundaries. Boundaries
Right.
are very important in life.
Yes.
It's very important to remain in a state of self-respect, self-love, self-gratitude, all those things. If you're catching yourself overextending yourself, whether that's in personal situations with yourself or overextending yourself with others, that's a scenario where you need to step back and reevaluate, like, why do you feel the need to have to overextend? Life is, again, meant to flow with ease, right? It's meant to not be stressful. If you're constantly under stress, you have to ask yourself, what is your environment? Like, why are you constantly feeling under either attack or stressed out or whatever? Like, because something's not working for you. Your body's reaction in being in a constant state of fear or anxiety. And I'm not talking like blessed. I mean, honestly, Dan, I just thank God every day how blessed and fortunate we are here and where we are, because I know there's a lot of things going on in the world right now. And even that in itself, again, like, it's not about not being aware of what's going on, but you have to some degree, have a boundary where you're not allowing yourself to get yourself stuck in this rut of like doom, gloom, you know, like negativity that's going on either. So there's got to be like, this isn't like, oh, we're just going to ignore everything.
Right.
You know, it's not an ignoring of what's going on, but it's like, no, I'm consciously deciding, where am I going to vest my energy? Because if you feed into fear, if you feed into anxiety, if you feed into these things, you're just going to be like vibing at such a non-productive state, right? It's not
going to be healthy for you, not going to be healthy for you in any way, shape, or form. And you're not going to have that positive mindset where you want to have a solution to something that you're going through, right? You don't want to be brought down. Now we have some more people watching. We're talking about failures, challenges. Let's call them challenges. We're talking about, you know, if you have any questions, okay, that's on that you have about this topic, please, you know, put them in the chat below, and we'll be more than happy to answer. And we have Andrea. Andrea is somebody who follows us. So Andrea, if you have any questions about any challenges that you're going through, and if you want Mandy and I to help you and to discuss, it would be our pleasure to take it on. So
one of the things I was going to mention too, just with lifestyle habits, one of the immediate things, and I'm going to put a link to the video above, but one of the immediate things that's helped me a lot as well, because you asked, what do I do in these moments of fear? Well, there's two things that come top of mind. One is EFT tapping, the emotional freedom technique tapping.
Right, we were talking about that, right?
Way to neutralize the feelings of fear and anxiety, like identifying what it is you're feeling, why you're feeling it, and tapping it out, but also physically changing your state. The other thing that this is the one time I'd say that I take my mind to, like, I always say, like, I'm the positive assumption queen. So I like to always think, like, what if you just think best case scenario? Well, in times when you're under severe, feeling like debilitated, we'll say, by fear or anxiety, sometimes it actually can be useful to actually take your mind just for a moment to the worst case scenario. Because a lot of times we find, if you actually logically, and this, again, one time I'll say use logic versus, you know, throw that out the window with manifesting. But if you actually take your mind to like what you really think your truest worst case scenario would be, you figure out that it's actually not the end of the world. Like, it's not as big of a deal. And if you can make peace with it, then you're like basically on the other side of that already. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, again, even with something as simple as, let's take this for example. Let's say someone wants to, I don't know, it's spring, almost summer. Someone wants to lose weight. But oh my goodness, they're afraid of what people will think. Oh no, what if someone, like, say they, you know, I know gyms are kind of here and there open right now, but let's say someone's scared that someone's going to judge them because they're in workout gear and they don't like the way they look now. Well, you know what? It's the same as it would be asking someone out. It's the same as it would be taking a business risk.
Right.
At the end of the day, you have to decide, I don't care what others are going to think about it. I'm making this decision for myself because I see the vision.
Right.
It's important to me and I believe in me.
Right.
So I'm going to do this for me, not for anybody else. And this is the same thing. The thing that it's so funny. We oftentimes are the most fearful of being judged by others, even though subconsciously we want to be accepted and loved by others. And it's like, it's interesting to me because if you, like I've seen this in even coaching clients and stuff, if the goal is about getting someone else to do something for you, you're never going to win. If the goal is to lose weight because someone's going to love you more, it's not going to be important enough for you to maintain that goal. Right. You know, like it has to come from within you. Same with business. If you're making decisions based on what you think other people are going to think, right, it's a losing, because you need to personally have a mission that's greater than any other fear that comes up in that process. Right.
So when that fear comes to you, it kind of just bounces off, if you will, and you're just going to keep focused in on what you need to do.
It is. It's like I talk about it in manifestation. It's a beautiful way, like metaphor that you use with the focus, laser vision, because I talk about this, and I said this to a client. When it comes to manifesting, a lot of times from where you're at to where, and this can be either manifesting or you want to use another terminology, say a goal. You want to accomplish a goal. You need to look at it like the goal is the end of the tunnel, that light at the end of the tunnel. Right. Same with manifesting. It's basically another way put, right? You have a desire. Now, a lot of times, not always, it can be instantaneous, but a lot of times, we'll say God, the universe, has a little timeline, a process of things having to shift around while you're doing, things that are supporting that, getting you to your goal, or, the internal work that you're building yourself up while it's on its way to you. What happens is, picture this. So the desire or the goals at the end of the tunnel, that's the light. You're straight now. From here to here, you literally are going through this tunnel. There are things that are going to come up on both sides of you while you're going through the tunnel. Let's say in your 3D reality. I'm going into the manifestation process now more, but it's the same as goals. There's going to be, let's call them challenges, obstacles, fears, doubts, limiting beliefs, old stories. All this stuff is going to come up on the sides. You need, as a conscious creator of your life, you need to stay focused on that light at the end of the tunnel. You need to say, I don't give a bleep what's coming up beside me this whole way. If it comes up, it's not ignoring it, but you're not going to give in to reacting to it. You're going to say, okay, cool, I see you're here. Doesn't matter. Here's the end goal. I'm laser focused on that. That's where you're going to feed your attention.
That's where the attention should be. So let me ask you a question here, because I'm
on a fearless rant today.
you are without fear.
I'm getting people to get rid of their limiting beliefs. I'm so committed to having people believe in themselves.
So we've heard face your fears. What do you think about that statement? Tell me what are your thoughts on that?
Actually, interestingly enough, I'm glad you brought this up, Dan.
We're on the same page all the time.
We're always vibing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I love this. I actually love this because, again, it depending on the degree in which you want to choose to do this. I think, a more, not passive, but a more subtle way to do this is the mind exercise of taking yourself to worst case scenario. Now, if you want to even be more powerful in that exercise, absolutely. Like I've seen many documentaries on people literally facing their fears. If they're afraid of, say, snakes, they might start. And that's the thing about fears. Depending on what the scenario is, you might start small. And I'm going to give a real life example too, but let's start with something like more so like say an external fear of, say you have a fear of snakes. So someone might start in that case with, they're terrified. I actually have a relative who has slowly worked her way through this fear. But let's say the first thing might be, maybe they start to become comfortable looking at a picture of a snake. Maybe that's the first step. Right. Maybe the second step is watching a video so they actually see the snake moving on the screen and it's alive, you know. Maybe the next step might be for somebody, maybe they go to, you know, I don't know, a pet store or a zoo or whatever, and they actually see it in person live. Maybe the final step for them is actually like getting to a point where, you know, I'm not sure where this might happen. Maybe again at like a zoo or somewhere, or the pet store, maybe they get a chance to actually touch it or something. You know, like that's pretty badass, you know, like,
yeah, sure.
But that's how you can work your way up. Now let's take it to like, say you're manifesting a specific person, or you're working on, say you are desiring an intimate relationship with somebody. Let's use a real life example. So maybe the first step is, maybe if you're a really shy person, is maybe just initiating contact. And that even that can freak some people out, you know, if they're really shy.
If they're shy and they're going to go up to that, you know, that person,
even online, maybe the first step for someone, you know, again, I'm more an in-person, like old school, old fashioned, traditional person. Yes, I think face to face is a lot nicer, but you know, we're living in a time, a lot of people are online, social media, whatever. Maybe the first step is to just like say hi, you know, hi, how are you? Or hey, great to meet you, or whatever the thing is. Maybe that's a little dip your toe in, right? Maybe the next step is like engaging in a conversation. You know, and depending again where you live, what your situation is. I mean, right now there's people in the world that are doing all sorts of things freely. There's people that aren't now. So you know, it just depends where you're at. But you know, it's facing a fear doesn't always have to necessarily be, for some people, it's like literally, let's rip off the Band-Aid, jump in, and let's get over it. You know?
Sometimes that's the best way to do something.
Sometimes it is.
Totally. You know, sometimes you got to rip the Band-Aid off and you got to dive right into it. Sometimes you need a little bit of coaching. Sometimes you need to start smaller. You know, when students, when they graduate, they ask me, should I open up my practice right away? I try to assess where they are and how comfortable they're going to be being uncomfortable. And I say to them, how entrepreneurial do you want to be? And I kind of assess where they are, Mandy. And sometimes I'll say, listen, you know what, maybe you need to learn a little bit more. And you go to work for somebody. Doesn't mean that you're going to be there forever, but you can start the process. And some individuals are ready to go. Either way, you're going to be taking care of clients and patients, and you're going to be learning. You're going to have that learning experience, and that you can use in your life when you want to be an entrepreneur, or you want to be an athlete, whatever it is you want it to be, a better mom, a better dad, a better son, a better brother, a better sister.
Totally. I think you brought up a good point too. It's like, it doesn't have to be, when we're facing fears, it doesn't have to be an all or nothing thing. And it depends again, like, I mean, sometimes we're talking about making a big life decision. Other times we're talking about like, you know, intrinsic sort of, you know, like say like social skills or talking to people. Like it could be different types of fears. You know, even the thing that you brought up just now though, even with say with new chiropractors, let's take that for example. So, you know, someone say going off on their own to begin with, or working with or for someone who maybe has an established clientele and you know, that kind of thing. I mean, it's very similar to say someone who, I know this comes up as an entrepreneur, you know, being a part of masterminds and that kind of thing. In business, a lot of times, you know, there's sometimes those of us who maybe do start to work for someone else, but we start a side hustle just so we have the security.
Yes.
But we also are branching off with the eventual tunnel vision goal of doing it on our own. And that might be, you know, I would hate for anyone to take away from this episode that there's a one-way be-all end-all for everyone. There's not.
Oh no, everybody's different. Everybody's different.
Every path is different. It's like for some people, and here's where I think that it can get. This is where I think, you know, no intention of this, but it can get tricky because sometimes it's like, I think almost like a FOMO can can kick in for some people too, where it's like,
Right.
oh no, am I gonna miss out if I'm not as fearless or taking as many risks as someone else? It's not that. It's like, I always, at the end of the day, it's always gonna go back to you having these inner conversations
Right.
with yourself, going like,
Right.
am I happy with where I'm at? Someone might, like you're saying, someone might even take a job for somebody else. Maybe they're not, maybe they don't want to be an entrepreneur. Maybe they absolutely love the security of working for someone else,
Right.
getting a paycheck every, week or month or whatever it is. And that's where they're happy to stay. For someone like myself, it's no judges whatsoever. It's a totally different mindset, different, lifestyle, whatever. I am someone who, of course, I really, even my personality type, I do really crave security. I crave that,
Mm-hmm.
but I have taught myself that no matter how, quote unquote, in times I feel scared, my personal life mission of
Mm-hmm.
making the greatest impact on the world at large, being a positive catalyst of change, that is bigger to me than any fear that comes up. That's where you have to ask yourself, is your mission, are you feeding a purpose that is so big right now that literally nothing can stop you? Not even your greatest fear is happening.
Right.
You have to ask yourself that question.
And I think it's important, and I think this is a powerful statement. I think it's important for younger generation to start overcoming, knowing how to overcome challenges, because that's a life skill that you can take with you, and to get them to think about it. I was listening to a podcast not too long ago where this individual was saying to their son, daughter, and they were saying that they asked, like on a Friday, tell me, what did you fail at this week? And the father would get upset if they didn't fail at anything, because that means there was no growth.
Yeah.
And it got me to thinking about my son. He plays hockey. So, when Canada reopens again, so hopefully we'll be able to come up and we'll play, and we'll be able to play in some tournaments.
Fingers crossed, Dan. You never know. This has been the intention for a while now.
Yeah. So after a game, after we get a little something to eat, we're driving home, we're driving back to the hotel, we're at a tournament. I'll say, hey, buddy. And he'll go, I know, Dad. What are the 3 things I did well on the ice? And what are the 3 things I need to work on? I don't use the word failure to him. I use the words
feedback. I like the feedback, basically.
Yeah, I want to see what where his mindset is. Maybe he'll say, you know what? I haven't shot the puck over the last couple of weeks. And my shot was off today. I've had a bunch of tests at school. And I'll say, okay, how can you figure that out using your prefrontal cortex, right? Your executive decisions. How can I figure, what do you need to figure out how to make that better? Maybe I could just, instead of, listening to music before I go to bed, maybe I can listen to some music and I'll go outside in the front yard or the backyard and I'll take a couple of 100 shots and I'll be better. So now when he's on the ice again, he overcomes that challenge of not being, or that fear, if you will, that challenge. I didn't score any goals in the last couple of weeks. What do you need to do? And my father did this to me unknowingly back when I was growing up. If I had a bad time on the ball field and I struck out, he would say, all right, come on, buddy, let's go in the backyard. It's time for me to, throw the ball at you again. And let me see how you're hitting. Let me see where your swing is. Because once you lose that momentum, right?
Yeah.
Once you lose that momentum, then you get into your head and now you start to fear, and that success becomes
that's the interesting thing, Dan, is like everything boils down to your mindset, right? We know that your thoughts create.
That's where I was going, Mandy. Let's go with mindset now, right?
Exactly. So here's the thing. It's important to know, like what you just said is so powerful, because it's all the way you approach it too. And I think I want to really, in this video especially, I really want people to hear this, that with manifesting, yes, you can absolutely manifest anything you want in your life. Anything is literally possible. Nothing's impossible. The thing is though, I think that so often, and there are times when I literally can sit and do nothing and I manifest. I'm going to say that's more on the very rare occasion that happens. Typically, we need to also reinforce our manifestations with actions that serve that manifestation. So for example, like even my YouTube channel, if y'all are watching out there, you've seen it grow exponentially in the last few months, especially. If I didn't get up and intend and intentionally make YouTube videos and produce them and have them edited and put them out there and share them, if I didn't take action, me sitting at home with, you know, nothing intended negatively, but like if I sat at home and just sat here and was like, I'm just going to be a big time YouTuber or whatever, that's not gonna, I need to do the work as well. Now, I'm not saying, I think that's, again, I think there's a story. We don't want it to be that people, I don't want people to take away from this message that, no, you need to like hustle. You have to like hustle your whole life and only work hard. And that's the only way, like you have to, you know, have struggle in order to have success. No, that's not, I don't think that's a healthy mindset to have either. I think it's very important, number one, to work on your mindset. If you can approach your life with the proper mindset, having a healthy mental diet, high self-worth, healthy, high self-concept, all those things, that is going to lead you to success, number one. Number two is that inner belief, that high self-concept, like I can do anything. I don't care what I hear. I don't care what I see. Tunnel vision. That's the dream. That's the goal. It's happening. Don't care how, but a huge element is taking the proper steps that are going to serve you so that it just honestly makes your journey that much better and easier for yourself.
Right. Sure.
You know?
Now, you said two words that struggle and work hard. And I have some thoughts here because I was in a seminar recently, and this is interesting. And the individual who was giving the seminar, and he said, you know what? He said, if you look at everything that you got to work hard, if everything's a struggle, it will become a struggle. Because that's what
you manifest it. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
It is. So if you say in your business, in your home life, whatever that is, in your relationships, if I got to work hard at it, that means it becomes hard. It doesn't become easy. Not that things are easy in a Pollyanna sense, but if everything's a struggle, if you say, oh, geez, today's been a struggle, my marriage is a struggle, this is a struggle, it is a struggle at that point, right? It's a struggle.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's why even what we started with, the power of words, failure, perfect example, the words that the meaning you equate to words are going to manifest your life. They literally will.
When I was in this seminar and I was listening to this, I was taking so many notes. I was like, wow, I never thought of it this way. And I thought of you. And I said, wow, I wonder what Mandy would say when it comes to this.
This is such a perfect timing. I was going to bring this example. I like one of the things that was mentioned in my mastermind last week that I thought was so beneficial. And it really got me thinking about, taking action, facing fears, all the stuff we're talking about now. It's really important. And I think it's something that I made a mental note of. So I want to share with y'all. I was thinking of you in this episode and sharing this concept. And some of you might be familiar with it. I feel like I've heard, different ways of it being put, but this was a very simple way I really liked. You need to compare your ROI to your COI. Now, what does this mean? So your return on investment versus the cost of inaction. So important, whether we're talking about business, relationships, lifestyle choices, people. You need to figure out, is not taking action actually costing you more in your life? Is not approaching that person you like costing you more in life? Is not taking that leaping the next step in your business costing you more? Is not making that little investment here costing you more, maybe financially? You know, the investment in yourself. Is not taking action on something that's going to heal or help yourself going to cost you more in the long run? Because you know what the number one thing people when they're elders, and I've spoken to a lot of elders because I bless their hearts, the wisest people, they've had the most life experience.
They have the life experience. You got it.
You know what the number one thing, one of the main things, I should say, not necessarily number one of the biggest things they say is that they wish they had blank. I am choosing in my life, Dan, to not live with regrets.
Right.
That's fearlessness. That is fearlessness.
Right.
To not allow things to be so scary that I actually miss out on life because my fears are overpowering the desire to achieve or do more.
I totally agree with that. I love that. And we're almost done with our time. So this is a good place to leave it off today, because I think that is a great statement. Don't be fearful. Don't let that challenge stop you, because missing out on what could have been could be something in 10 years from now, Mandy, that you are going to sit there and say to yourself, wow, I wish I did, right? I wish I did. And that becomes a situation where you don't want to be in, because that one word that I'm going to say is regret.
Yeah.
If you have that regret, it's going to be not a good situation. So Mandy, we're almost done, and it always goes so quick.
I know, it just flows. It's just such a good flow. It's positive flow. It
is. So how can individuals contact you? Where can they get you? Where can they find you? And where can they get involved in your coaching if they want? So
thank you. Yes, obviously, as y'all know, or some of you, if you're new tuning in, I am a mindset and manifestation coach. Happy to help you on your journey of manifesting anything that you absolutely desire in life. My website basically has all the coaching information. It's mandyjross.com. You can find me on pretty much every social media platform. Typically, it's just Mandy J. Ross. And obviously my YouTube channel, if you guys are tuning in on Facebook now, it's Mandy J. Ross. If y'all are watching on the YouTube, then obviously you're here. And I'm glad to have you guys joining. We're over 20,000 in my community now.
Nice.
It's growing. It's such a blessing to have each and every one of you here. And I just want to put it out there, guys. My big challenge for you today, no pun intended, is, even there's two things. If you want to start small, like do something every day that scares you. Even if it's the littlest thing, even if it's, say if you're someone who's used to being like a routine freak, do something outside of your comfort zone. Right. Like you start to build more. I feel like being fearless, because I would consider myself pretty fearless at this point. I'm kind of a badass fearless lady. But, like I'm just gonna say it. But it didn't start with me doing like 0 to 100 in a day. Right. It was over time. It was extending myself a little bit more. And I will mention this for inspiration for y'all out there. I used to be someone who was so stuck to my routines, so wanting to be in my little comfort bubble. And like, I'm like the total opposite now in terms of I have my structured security things in my life, but I really push myself to break through my fears, because I know on the other side of my fear is the most amount of success I could ever dream of in my life. It's, again, let's go back to the Dan metaphor. Jump off that cliff, because if it's not unless you do that you can actually experience flying. And we all want to fly. We were meant to fly. I love that. And Dan, where can people find you in your lovely soul?
Okay, so you can find me on social media, Dan Cartalicchio DCMS. I have a bunch of offices here in New Jersey, Suburban Wellness Group. 973-483-2277. At GFC, Goldman Family Chiropractic, 732-577-9600. Nutrition of Westfield, 908-203-4200. I got all these offices. I got these phone numbers. And one more, Nutrition and Wellness of Woodbridge, 732-596-0333. Recommend that you contact Mandy. I am a big fan, and it is a great conversation. I want to thank you again. And we're going to see everybody in about 3 or 4 weeks again, right?
Absolutely. I was going to say, I think one of the biggest things, the last thing I want to leave people with, that really helps me too in times when I'm feeling like, say, a little bit more anxious, laughter. So I was going to ask you to end the episode. I'm sure you've heard plenty over the years. What's the best chiropractic joke you've had over the years?
Oh boy, you know what? You walk into a chiropractic, office, and I don't think we have anything here, but there's a big picture of, like a meme, a chiropractor, and he's pounding away on somebody's mid-back, and it says, "You crack me up." I'm like, okay, you crack me up. So there you go. I got a lot more, but it could go on forever with that. So we're just going to leave it with that one. So I want to thank everybody.
You cracked me up, Dan. You definitely
crack me up. We crack each other up. So I want to thank everybody for listening in today. Contact Mandy, contact me, and we'll be more than happy to help you out. And live the best version of yourself. Be fearless. Put that challenge in. Stay focused. Until the next time, keep moving forward. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.